So to answer Carrie's question, in short, we are celebrating birds and getting the word out about how important birds are. So we use Migratory Bird Day as an opportunity to, I guess, amplify some of the things that we do year round. And a couple of specific ways are that we're going to be promoting the Birdathon, which is something that the Natural Resources Foundation does to promote bird conservation, and organizations like ours participate in it, and you can participate in it, and either by donating or by forming your own team and birding on your own. We're promoting the importance of bird-safe glass in Madison. There's an ordinance that the city of Madison put out, which is very progressive, and to require bird-safe glass on large buildings, and which is wonderful. It's a really great step, but it is facing a legal challenge. So we're supporting the city in fighting that legal challenge. You can find out more about that on our webpage, and stay tuned. I think there's going to be an interesting legal battle surrounding that starting in June. We're generally kind of getting the word out just to celebrate birds, get outside, support kids' education for nature, and by inviting people to come visit our sanctuaries, our wildlife sanctuaries. So if you get the opportunity to want to spend some time breathing some fresh air, you can come visit Goose Pond Sanctuary or Fayetteville Grove Sanctuary, which is out near Lake Mills. So both really beautiful places, great place to listen for birds. There's a lot, it's noisy out there in a good way. So please visit. I think that's about all, though. I mean, we want to, again, this is another way too. It's these partnerships and these kinds of courses for people to enjoy birds and come to appreciate them. Again, this is just one of my favorite things. I bird by ear. I hardly use binoculars. When I find a bird, I'm just tuned in all the time. And it comes from learning this kind of stuff. You train your ears, and I'll be in the middle of a conversation and just like, oh, did you hear that? So that's just that's what I love about this course. So I think that's about it, Carrie. I don't need to keep talking.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you. Yeah. So everyone check out their website, check out Cornell's website, all about this migratory bird celebration. It's really a phenomena that is worth learning more about. And, that's what part of today is about, is learning about some of these migratory birds that are coming through right now. So what I'll do right now is start getting started going through some of your comments. I might call on you to talk about what you've seen and heard. Well, heard mostly. We're focusing on hearing birds. And then I have some stuff that I recorded that I'll sort of intersperse. I went out to Pheasant Branch, which is where we hopefully will return next year to do our field trip, together in person. And then I went to Olin Turville Park also the day before and got some recordings that we can talk about. So on that note, let's start looking at what people have been writing. So let's see, Christine, you talk about you had some cardinals nesting near your house and mourning doves, which is awesome. They do start relatively early. And I see a little further on, you talked about robins, blue jays, sandhills overhead. So Christine, does that mean you heard those birds flying overhead? And if you want to unmute, you can just hit your space bar and that'll temporarily unmute you, or you can unmute it more permanently, your mic. So now, well, I see you nodding, so it sounds like you heard them fly overhead, which is cool. I mean, to be able to hear and recognize birds as they fly is a real skill too, because that's they're moving and they're farther overhead. So that's very cool that you were able to do that. Let's see, Ellen, I saw that you heard a call near the village of Oregon. Do you want to talk about what you heard there, Ellen?
Sure. There's some trails that have been built up the last couple of years on the, I guess, southwest part of town of the village that go through marsh and prairie mostly. And we were near one of the marshy areas and startled a great blue heron. We didn't know he was there, and but then we heard him, and he took off with big loud flap. I'll see if I can get this call to work.
Is that a call, or is that the wings you recorded?
I wasn't able to record it. It was too fast. I Googled it. I tried to get it off of Cornell, but I guess it's a long one.
Jim, do you want to pull up that call we used last year, the great blue heron? Give people a sense of what they're...
He wasn't pleased.
He wasn't pleased.
He was not.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting sound, and it doesn't sound... It sounds a little threatening.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Was that it, Ellen?
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like there's a kind of music in South Louisiana called Zydeco, and they scrape something off a washboard. That's kind of what it sounds like.
That is a great description. I love that analogy. Yeah, that's fantastic. Never thought of that before. Thanks, Ellen.
Thanks.
All right, so let's see. Carol, I'm just looking at yours. You said you heard a call this morning, lots of birds singing, and you heard one in particular. You want to describe that, what you heard this morning?
Yeah, there were birds all over the place, it seemed like, but I focused on one, tried to record it. It's very faint, so, but it was basically, and I don't know my birds, so I couldn't, except for the mourning dove, I couldn't identify any of them, but it might be a common sound, I don't know. But basically the pattern of it was, it was a high, pure sound, and it was like low and then low and then.
Oh, okay.
So do people know what that was?
I'm thinking potentially, I'll pull this up and see if you think this is the one that you heard. Let's play it first and then see if you recognize it. Oops, I got to share, don't I? So yeah, this sounds familiar. At first I was thinking maybe it was a chickadee, but the way you describe it now, I'm thinking it's this.
Yes.
Is that it?
That's it. Yes.
So yeah, these are white-throated sparrows. There are a lot of them in town right now. And it's a nice pure note, and one's low and then a bunch of high ones. The mnemonic is typically old Sam Peabody, Sam Peabody, or it's oh sweet Canada, Canada, Canada.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so again,
Canada.
It's exactly as you described it.
Yeah, that is definitely the bird. I didn't see any of the birds. I was just listening to them, and that was this morning out on my deck. So
cool.
In Cottage Grove.
And you have a little note at the end. It made you happy, which
it did. It did.
Which is fantastic.
Hey,
I mean, that's
Carrie.
Yeah.
I thought that it sounded a little bit like a chickadee also. How did you tell the difference?
Oh, well, the chickadee typically goes down on the second note. So
Okay.
Oh, yeah, no, let's swing it up.
Yeah, and this one goes up, and it usually has more notes repeated at the second part of it. Peabody, Peabody, Peabody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And they're sort of triplets also. So the chickadee is just basically two notes or two. Sometimes the second note is a little bit of a two-syllable sound to it.
So how do I find out what bird that is? How would I go about from the sound figuring out what bird it is?
Yeah, that's a little tough. Some of it is just what you did. You observed the sound, and maybe you're able to find the bird, and then look it up. But also there's this Song Sleuth app that Jim recommended, where you could potentially record that sound, and then it would sort of give you some options of which bird it might be. And then you can listen to those bird sounds and compare what you heard to that.
Oh, okay.
So that Song Sleuth app is really cool. And it's not going to be 100% accurate. Obviously, there's sometimes the sound, there's a lot of other sounds that are
Right.
in there.
I've been trying to use Sound Sleuth and need some tech support. So
Okay. Yeah, maybe we can, what do you think, Jim? Do you think there's maybe near the end we can talk about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Song
Absolutely.
Sleuth?
It's a hard app to share on Zoom
Yeah.
because it records, and Zoom doesn't like it when you record and share apps that record, and it kind of gets a little weird. But I can maybe just hold it up the camera and just kind of show a little bit that way too. So that might be a good way to do it.
Okay, sounds good. We'll try to give, 5 minutes or so at the end to help work through that. But yeah, it's a nice app for learning those sounds.
And it's
the
free.
birds by sound. And it's free, yeah. All right, so let's see. Ellen, I have yours here. You were in Door County this week on some ridges, hiking on some ridges. You want to talk about what you heard there?
That's John.
Oh, that's John. Okay. Hi, John.
Yeah, we were hiking at the ridges and kept hearing the same. It would sound like multiple, but it was this kind of really sweet sound, and it kind of built pretty quickly and crescendoed a little bit. I could not get a recording of it because it stopped as soon as I attempted to.
Of course.
To, Sound Sleuth it, and it was giving us that yellow-rumped warbler, and it was such a beautiful sound on a gray day.
Yeah, that is a lovely description of it too. It's sort of sweet, warbly, and how did you describe the end of it? It's sort of crescendo.
It sounds like it, almost like it wound up, like kind of went a little bit quicker towards the end.
Yeah, sounds like Ellen has a recording.
Did that work?
I heard it earlier. It's a little hard to hear right now for some reason. We can pull it up. Jim, do you have it handy, or the yellow rump warbler? Or is that not one we have?
I do have that.
Okay, I'm gonna play this song.
Yeah, let me share real quick.
It's a really good description of it. They're very vocal. There's often a number of them in trees. And it is sort of a
items new multi-select list box. White, yellow warbler
light,
.mp3,
sweet.
15 item, yellow belly sack sucker drumming yellow rump warbler call .mp3, 71 of 72. Yellow rump warbler song .mp3, enter.
There it is.
Fades off at the end.
And this one, sometimes it does go a little faster at the end. This one is not quite doing it that, but it is speeding up slightly at the end there. Yeah, that's a good, very good observation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Let's see. I lost my Zoom meeting. There it is. All right. So Sue says she was on a quick walk on an overcast morning and she heard something. Sue, you want to tell us about that? Sue Davidson?
Yes, I pulled it up on my phone. So I heard it twice. Well, I heard it and then I started recording and heard it twice more. And it's just a very quick, it's a doo-doo. And I know I've heard it before, and that I could actually spot it in the tree shocked me. But then you'll hear, right as the airplane starts to go over, you'll hear it the second time. So let me just go volume as high as I can.
Okay. I love it.
I don't know if that came through at all.
It was a little, I'm not sure we heard it the way you're hearing it. It was a little distorted for some reason.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Did you
Oh,
say it kind of went, did you describe it as sort of?
Yeah, but like whistly, like a little kid's toy whistle. You know what? Let me turn my video off because sometimes that distorts my sound, and I'll play it
Okay.
one more time.
Okay. Oh. Oh, that's an interesting sound. I am not completely sure what that is. I was thinking chickadee, but you're right. The sound is not as pure as I would have thought, because I think the chickadee is more. And this one sounded a little buzzier, huh?
Right, right. And remember, I'm down in Chicago, so we don't have the wide variety that you all have up in Wisconsin.
I mean, it could be the call, a bit of a shortened call of a chickadee to what I'm hearing, but let me do this. Let me go to the chickadee calls and see if any of this sounds more like what you're hearing, because obviously it's a little hard to get the right sound over a Zoom call. So listen to this and tell me what you think. Is that call part of it? Anything close to what you were hearing?
I would say the rhythm of it, or
quite.
the tone, not the tone, obviously, because that was much more pure, like you were saying, but that definitely followed the pattern, like the up down.
Okay. Yeah, that's a tough one.
I was thinking that it's not a chickadee. I think that was a blue-winged warbler.
Oh, all right. That's a good possibility. Yeah, I think it's just hard to sort of hear all the tones over. We got a recording, and then it's over mic, open air mic, and then it's over the internet. But let's see if you think this. Am I still shared? Can you guys see the screen of the blue-winged warbler now?
No.
I think I stopped sharing. So this one is a migratory species that comes in, has arrived, and it has the bee buzz sound that we talked about in the presentation. So listen to this and see what you think. Is that more like it, Sue?
It wasn't quite that buzzy.
Okay.
But again, it definitely follows the note pattern.
Okay. Well, that one may have to be
I might have to do
unidentified
some
for now.
detecting.
But the key is like just the way you're trying to figure it out. You've got the pattern, you've got the sort of sound qualities. I mean, that's how you do it. You just work through those and kind of listen to different ones that are described similarly, and eventually
my piano teacher was always really irritated because I wanted to play by ear instead of reading the notes. So that's why I was a much better singer than a piano player. So I definitely have the ear thing down. When Matt was saying at the start, I think it was Matt, in the middle of a conversation, all of a sudden he'll say, "Oh, did you hear that?" And I was totally doing that at a family birthday party Saturday afternoon last week after this class. Like, "Oh, there's a blue jay."
That's perfect. I think you've definitely got a head start there. So I would keep trying to work through some different sounds that are described, sort of that buzzy two-note, and I'll keep thinking about it, but right now I can't quite come up with it. Katie, that was a great guess, though. I didn't even think of that at first. All right, let's see. I'll go through one more, and then maybe we'll play some stuff that I recorded. Chris, right?
Yes.
She was in mid-morning overcast conditions in a stand of tree near marshy areas, lots of bird sounds, and she heard something that stuck out. So Chris, why don't you tell us what you heard?
It just sounded like the bird was saying weird, kind of like weird, only really stretched out and really raspy. So that's why it stuck out with all the other birds that were kind of pure sounds. And it was in the pheasant branch, kind of near where the eagle nest is.
So in that marshy open area.
But in the trees part near the marshy area.
Okay. Do you know the sound of a red-winged blackbird?
I do, and it wasn't that.
It wasn't that? Okay.
No.
Weird. Weird. Somebody have an idea that might, Katie, maybe? Might something stands out to you? Or Matt? Was it a single kind of long note, or were there syllables in that? Weird.
No, it was kind of like one sound. Weird. Well, it kind of dropped at the end then. Weird.
Could it, I wonder if, I mean, sort of thinking Phoebe, but that has a very distinctive 2-note sound.
Where in, you might have already described this, but where exactly, like how high up and down, what kind of, do you have any idea what it was in? Kind of, was it near the ground, up in the trees?
I feel like it was up in the trees. I could be wrong about that because there were so many sounds at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, that was a tough one, but again, I just love that you're, you know, how you're going about sort of thinking about the sounds, where they're coming from, what habitat you're in. Those are all just really good ways to start figuring these things out, or just recognizing them, and then eventually, you know, you'll keep hearing it as long as, because you're tuned into the sound now, and maybe at some point it'll gel, or you'll be able to see it, or somebody will identify it for you. You'll say, "What's that?" And oh, yeah, that's it. So yeah, there's just lots of good stuff in the way you're approaching it. Think about those quality, the timbre, so raspy, and the number of pattern and syllables, and what it sounds like to you. So that's
Gary.
cool. Yeah.
Catbird?
Catbird, did it sound kind of like a cat? Is it sort of meow?
No, it wasn't a cat.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, that's another good guess. I mean, there's some flycatchers that have sort of a, yeah, it's not jumping out at me. But again, I think that I just like the way you're approaching how you're describing it. Thanks, Chris. I'll keep thinking. Again, we're not totally focused on ID right now. We're more focused on how we're listening and learning the sound. So don't worry too much if we can't come up with a name right now. Melissa Brown, I like this a lot. You were at Donald Park. Can you tell us where that was and what you heard? Because
Donald Park is in Southern Dane.
Okay.
Kind of between Mount Horeb and New Glarus. And it was in the woods. And I've heard this for a few years now. And I'm so familiar with the drink your tea mnemonic, but this is just, I'll play it for you.
Okay.
If we can hear it. It's been bothering me for years. And I wanted someone to ask. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And the habitat is perfect for the towhee, but I have never heard one truncated. Okay, bird brains.
You got a towhee. You got a towhee. Sorry, Katie, go ahead.
A rufous-sided towhee.
Well,
yeah. So that's the old name. They've changed they split them into the eastern and the spotted. But you're right, Katie, that is a towhee. And I do hear one note prior. So I'm hearing drink tea.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But have you ever heard that before when they drop? Okay. Great. I love towhees.
Yeah. So sometimes you'll just hear the tea. Sometimes you hear the drink tea, and sometimes you hear drink your tea.
Okay.
And out west, the spotted towhee tends to only have the tea part of it.
Okay.
Well,
so all the towhees at Donald Park only say the last part.
Okay, well
they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And that might not be surprising. They may all be related.
Or they're hearing each other, and
exactly.
They're sort of they're learning from each other, or they're trying to outdo each other.
Okay, I've got an isolated one if you want to play that.
Okay, yeah, let's play it. Thanks, Jim.
Meeting controls. Sounds. Enter.
Yeah, so we're just hearing the second and third section of that, the drink. We're just hearing your tea. So that's a typical song of the Eastern Towhee.
And it's nice because I hear it a lot more than I see them.
Yeah, yeah, they're hard. They're sometimes really hard to find because they're very skulky, shy birds, and they'll stay low on the ground in the bushes. And yeah, they don't come out very much.
Well, thanks.
But when they sing, they often sing from higher up, so it makes it a little easier to find them. But hearing them is definitely the best way to identify them.
Thank you, Bird Brains.
I think that's a compliment.
That's definitely a compliment. People who think about birds all the time.
Right.
Bird nerds.
Bird nerds, yeah.
Bird nerds too, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they've been finding out more about bird brains, literally, on how they're structured and how they're able to process things much more than we thought they were. Like some of them they think are more equivalent to mammal brains, even though they're much smaller for their body size.
Wow.
Just the way they're structured. So there's lots of cool things they're learning about bird intelligence. Okay, so let's.
The birds have dialects, like her birds at Donald Park. Would they have a dialect?
They very well might. Certainly, they've done studies with sparrows. You know, there's some famous studies with white crown sparrows in the Bay Area, and all around the San Francisco Bay Area, and all around it, there's different dialects. Different populations of the same species all have different songs, and they're learning it locally and passing it on generationally.
Neat.
So yeah, it's very, in certain different parts of the country. And when you go onto Cornell's site, there's lots of different examples from different parts of the country, and you can hear those differences sometimes in those calls and songs.
The chickadees in my neighborhood, instead of doing the 2 notes, they do a 3rd note. So I have hot cross buns in my neighborhood. Hot cross buns. Hot cross buns.
Yeah, and the very similarly closely related Carolina chickadee does, which is different species, of course. They go, and one of my coworkers when I was a biologist used to think that said, "I will kill you," because they're very aggressive little birds sometimes. They're so spunky and fun that I just love watching them.
But not Carolina. Carolina.
I know. Well, this is my friend. I don't know
Okay.
what was going on with him.
Carolina.
Yeah, that's much better in terms of trying to remember it. But he, again, it's all personal, right? It's what sticks in your brain. That's what's stuck in his brain. Let's see. Let me. I'm going to share my screen and some sounds. We're going to listen to some of the sounds that I recorded first at Olin, Turville Park. And this, I have up on the screen a picture of, you can see the picture, those of you with the screen on right now, of the blue, what are these? Anybody know these birds? They're these flowers, they're little blue.
Virginia bluebells.
Okay, thank you. I knew there'd be a plant person here. So this is in Olin, Turville Park. It's a nice wooded area with some tall, older hardwoods and then some shrubs and low vegetation. It's a nice variety of habitats. Obviously, it's near Lake Monona. So we have water nearby, but it's also near John Nolan Drive. So in the morning when I first started out, it was a little noisy. So I apologize for any car sounds that you hear. We'll hear a little bit early on. This was about 7:30 in the morning. And let's just listen for a little bit and see what we can come up with here. Give me a thumbs up if you're hearing anything. Okay. Okay, I'll stop right there because it's a little quiet, but I want to see if this is more like the exercise we did with the morning chorus, the dawn chorus, right? So anybody recognize anything or want to describe a particular sound? Because we've already discussed at least one of those sounds already this morning.
I was hearing song sparrow.
Yeah, song sparrow. Yeah, thank you. How would you describe the song sparrow, Katie?
The song sparrow it starts out with the 3 introductory notes. It sounds like it's saying, mates, 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 put on your tea kettle, little.
I love that. Yeah, the 3 introductory notes or 2 introductory notes is how I almost always pick them out initially, because then after that, it's sort of this jumble like Katie was describing. But the maids, 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 I hear that. And then this jumble of notes, and I'm like, oh, that's song sparrow. I don't know. Let's see. It was a little hard to pick out, so I'm going to keep going. But there was at least one other sparrow singing. Anyone pick that up? When we talked about it this morning, somebody had heard it and described it.
It's a white-throated sparrow?
Yes, that's right. Is that the one you had, Carol?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So did you hear that in the background? That
I didn't catch it, no.
Oh,
There were
sweet
so
Canada,
many
Canada,
birds.
Canada. Yeah, that's why sometimes it can be a little overwhelming in those early morning dawn choruses. Let's see if we'll keep playing a little bit. I think there's some other species here that you might recognize. There was the white-throated there.
Yes.
Song sparrow was in the background. And there's one right in the foreground now that we haven't really gone over, but I think we played it in the presentation. It's a warbler. And it usually is described as sweet, sweet, sweeter and sweet. Right there. There's another one in the background. Right there. That real quick, high-pitched. Anyone recognize that one?
It's a yellow, not yellow throated. It's a yellow warbler.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Yeah, that's the yellow warbler. And it's there were a lot of them, so you hear some in the background, some in the foreground here. So we just heard a song sparrow in the background and a yellow warbler right away. So the song sparrow had those 3 notes. Go back a bit. So I didn't go far enough. So that first dee 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 was the song sparrow, and then right after it, almost overlapping it, is the yellow warbler. That was the yellow. And that was the song. Now we're getting a little closer. Does anyone recognize that sweet sort of chuck chuck doo, 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 up in the, it sounds like it's a little higher and further away. Right here. You recognize that?
It's a Baltimore Oriole.
You got it. Yeah, so there's an Oriole singing here. Let's see. Let's go on to another recording, so a little further on into the woods. This one's about a minute, so I'll play the whole thing. See what we can come up with here. So for that first 10 seconds or so, there was only one bird in the foreground. Well, it was a little further away, but what I would describe it as a lot of sounds, phrases, and notes that didn't repeat each other. It just kept changing things up and going on and on. Let me play that first part again and see if you hear that. So all of that stuff was basically one bird singing there. Kind of, we talked a little bit about it, I think. There's some birds that do stuff where there's some repeat themselves twice and then move on to another one. Some repeat themselves 2 to 3 times. And this one basically just does one phrase or one note and then changes it up and changes it up again, changes it up. No repeating.
Is that a vireo?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, vireos, they do have a real raspy sound, but their songs tend to be really regular. And, you know, it's like a couple notes and then it does them again.
Okay.
You know, it doesn't change them up. Basically, it's always the same thing, like most birds.
Was
What's that?
Was it a catbird?
Yeah, that's a catbird, Alice. Thanks. Yeah, so there's a catbird singing here. I think I have a better recording a little later, but this one was very isolated, so I thought I'd play that. We'll play a little more of this piece, this clip here. Catbird. Chickadee singing in the background. Here comes some jays, blue jays. And an oriole far back. So again, it's sort of like you sort of start training your ear to recognize some of the sounds, and then sort of when you have a group of them, you can start picking out the individual ones and sort of, you know, once you figured that out, you could ignore that and move on to the ones that you haven't recognized. So it makes it a little easier. The more you know, the much easier it gets out there.
Seems like there were some cardinals in the background.
Very likely, yeah. I might have missed them. I didn't write that down, but it's very likely, yeah.
Around my house, all you ever hear are cardinals. Every time I try and record anything, there's a cardinal stomping on it.
Was the cardinal that you heard just now singing, or did you hear the call note?
It was the call.
The call. Oh, so that really chip, that kind of sound. All right, so then let's go to this recording. This one is I think it starts out with a particular bird. I think they're fairly close. So let's see if you hear this. Yeah. So it's that jumbled set of notes, really fast. That one is something we didn't really go over this time in the previous class.
Yeah, it's a house wren.
Yeah, good call. House wrens have that really, I want to play, or Jim, maybe, well, I guess I have mine shared, so let me see if I can pull this up, because I'll play a more professional recording, and that way you can hear it a little easier. the greatest description I heard of this by one of the participants last year was the sound of a cassette tape or a tape recording being played backwards quickly. Let's see if you agree with that or not. It's a beautiful little song. And it's quite loud. The bird is quite tiny. You know, it's smaller than maybe a pill bottle, small pill bottle. And they're just, they just belt it out there. Oh, it's a long recording. All right, so it just keeps going on, and that's what they do. All right, so let's, I'm going to stop the share and we'll move on to see if anybody else has some things they want to share here. I'm going to go back to where we left off, which was the Eastern Towhee, I believe. Okay, so the next one in line I have from Judy. It says that you heard a clear single note song on top of a crabapple as you were leaving Pheasant Branch Conservancy, which is where we'll do the trip. So tell us about that, Judy, and what you thought it was and what you discovered it was, it looks like.
So it was late afternoon, not the best time to be birding, and it was cloudy, and we had walked all around the boardwalk and out to the prairie area and seen all the usual suspects, including sandhills and turkeys and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And we were leaving, so you know that circle where you park, there's some apartments there, and there's this big crabapple tree that was just solid white at the top with flowers. And I heard this really warm, clear note, like it was going to start something, but then it didn't. And it happened 2 or 3 times, and I couldn't see a bird in that tree. So I got my binoculars out and started searching the treetops. And the first thing I found in the top of the tree was a whole flock of cedar waxwings. Now, I knew it wasn't a cedar waxwing because I know what they sound like, that really super high pitched.
Yeah.
So while I'm looking at the cedar waxwings, I suddenly saw a Baltimore Oriole. And I thought, oh my goodness, there's a Baltimore Oriole there. So when I came home, I started looking for songs of Baltimore Orioles. And of course, they sing that big, long, beautiful song. But I just kept going places and listening to various tapes of Baltimore Orioles. And I finally found some from the Macaulay Library, Cornell site, that was just these warm-up notes. These really warm-toned 1 or 2 warm-up notes that people had recorded just that part of the song. And that's absolutely what it was. So I was surprised.
That is so cool. Yeah. You didn't happen to get a recording of that, did you?
No, I'm having trouble with my cell phone. And I think that the Song Sleuth is not a particularly good Android app. So I haven't tried to even put it on. I read the reviews for it on Android, and it people have a lot of trouble with it. So I need to do something about that. But I was so busy trying to look for it, I didn't even try to record it.
Okay.
So,
Jim, do you have?
Go ahead.
I was wondering if you had one queued up, the song of a Baltimore Oriole.
I don't know if I have an Oriole. Let me look and see what I have here.
Okay.
Mostly what is recorded is the more complicated, beautiful, long song.
I was just looking on the library to see if I could find what you found, but they're not described in the pictures, so you have to go through one by one. But
and that was the place where you could see the, what do you call that, scan of the song?
Yeah, right.
And a couple of them just have those 2 notes.
Yeah.
and then it ends. And that's where I saw it.
That's where you saw it. Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll look for that.
I actually find that that's, for me, the most common way I hear Baltimore Orioles is by that one note and not the full song. So that's when I'm like, oh, I heard the one note. There's an Oriole around.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
That's just for me, though. I don't know if that's the case, if they've used that
Well,
call more
it's
often.
for me too, as of now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I jump off because my son has a thing. So I just want to thank you again for letting me crash your party, and really lovely being here with you. And I hope
Thank
you
you,
enjoy
man.
the rest of the class today and get outside and enjoy some birds. So very nice to see you all.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Matt.
Take care.
Thanks, Matt.
All right. Well, that's cool. I'm going to try one recording that I see has a single note in it. Let's see if that's the one. If that's not, we'll just keep moving on, but maybe we can find it later.
And while Carrie's looking for that, I'll just add that Matt actually found a tutorial online. He sent me in chat a link to a tutorial online on how to use SongSleuth. So somebody else professionally shows how to use it. So I can play that tutorial towards the end if we want. I can send you guys all the link to it as well. So it's somebody actually does a demo of how to use SongSleuth.
Perfect. Thank you.
That sounds great. Does it say whether they're using the iPhone or the Android version?
I don't know.
I have an Android. I use BirdNet from Cornell, and it seems to work really well.
That's a recording app, Jim?
It is, yeah. It actually will kind of sound if it were, yeah, it does record because I can play back on it.
Okay. Cool. So let me play this, what looks like a single note from a Baltimore Oriole, and see if this matches up. Oh, no, I guess it's not. Is that the one?
That's it.
Okay.
Oh.
So it's a very pure note, like you said.
It's not super high pitched. It's warm.
Yeah, it's very warm. You're right.
That's it.
And that, that sounds like it might be really difficult to remember how that sounds, but oftentimes you'll start hearing them sing like soon after that. So then you can start to pair that sound with what you recognize as the Baltimore Orioles. So that's very cool. That's a great find.
Yeah. I'm not feeling well. I'm gonna have to leave and go lie down.
I'm sorry, Susan. Well, I'm glad you could join us so far.
Yes, it was very interesting.
Good. And yeah, feel free to send me an email with any questions you have or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, take care. Thanks, Susan.
Yep.
Okay, so let's see. Let's go move on to somebody else's. Matt, who just left us, says he had lots of unidentified warblers chipping in the trees behind my house. And that's a challenge, chipping warblers. Their songs are pretty distinct, but when they're just chipping, they make that the little call note, that gets hard. But there are a few that can be, I often can identify yellow rumps by their chip. Their chip note tends to be stronger, harsher, louder than a lot of other warblers. So, and they're oftentimes in big groups. So sometimes that helps to identify them as yellow rump warblers. Gail says, I realized how many birds I already know. Can you describe what you mean by that, Gail? That's kind of an interesting comment. I like this.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about bird songs. I was out at the Arboretum trying to record things, and the cranes and the turkeys and the mourning dove and the cardinals, and it's like, oh, I know that one. I don't need to record it and try and figure out what it is on SongSleuth. I already know what that is.
Yeah.
but there's also an awful lot of them out there that just sound like gibberish.
But yeah, I mean, I think what you're describing to me is sort of this this stuff we've picked up on over the years, right? Even if we're not paying attention, we recognize stuff, all this noise from wildlife and sounds from nature, and when you start paying attention, you realize, you know, how much you've actually heard over the years, and what, you know, you may not be able to say what it is, but you recognize the sound, and that's.
Well, I chuckled that the chipmunk was in the top list of common birds when I downloaded Song Sleuth, because at first I couldn't figure out where to record anything. So I told them I was in Wisconsin, and they had this list sorted by how common it was. And the chipmunk and the gray squirrel were both in the top 25.
Yeah. Yeah. Small mammals can sound like birds when they chirp. It can be very annoying sometimes. It's like, what is that? Oh, it's a chipmunk. But they're cool. They're cool little animals. Let's give them their due. All right. Why don't I go to Evelyn's, if you're okay with me reading some of what you saw and asking you to comment on that.
Be my guest.
Okay, so Evelyn sent us something where she wrote about what she'd heard in the last week. Sounds like you used to live in Oregon State?
No, I live here in Sun Prairie.
Oh, okay, but you said
I
years
traveled
ago.
several years ago.
Okay, and you sound, I love this description, but I want you to describe it for me because I'm not quite sure what it sounds like. You said you heard the sound of an old-fashioned porch slider or swing.
Yeah.
How would you describe that sound?
I don't know. I've called it the porch swing bird for so long. I don't know.
Is I guess what it is. Is it squeaky? Is that what
it's something like that one bird that had other notes following it? I'm sorry, I forgot the name. Somebody here said it might be a phoebe, but I don't know.
Oh, okay. Would you describe the sound as squeaky or more tonal, like tonal notes?
It's tonal.
It is tonal. Okay.
But it's just sweet, something like that.
Oh, so like the chickadee, maybe?
Something like the chickadee, but no other sound with it that I've heard. I just hear that one sound. And for first year I was here, the bird went from tree to tree. And then I said, hey, that's the porch swing bird, because I heard it in Oregon, on the way to Oregon. And then I did hear it again. And last year I heard it once again. And this year there's two of them because they call to each other.
Why don't I play the chickadee and see? I think we played a little bit of it during the presentation, but let's see if that sounds like that was it. Because it is sort of the way you describe the notes, right? It's sort of that.
That's it.
Okay. Get out of.
I'm not good at making sounds.
Oh, that's okay. It's more about what you hear than the way you can mimic them, right? That's a lot harder. So this chickadee, our local chickadee, I believe they are found in Oregon as well. They don't make it much further south than that. So that's, but I'll check the map when we listen to it.
That sounds a lot like it, yes.
It does?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, we figured out your porch swing bird.
Forever will be a teacher.
That's awesome. Yeah, why not just keep calling it a porch spring bird?
And that's a great mnemonic. You can porch swing.
Right. I'm just looking at their range map, and they do make it all through the state of Oregon. They just don't make it much further south into California and Nevada. So that is definitely probably what you heard there. That sounds like that's what you heard.
But I'd never heard it before, and I lived in Ohio and Michigan. And we were traveling, and we're just coming onto the freeway or off the freeway. I can't remember which one it was. And I heard the sound. I said to my daughter, I said, look, tell me what that bird is. And she says, I don't see any bird, Mom. Of course, she was 19, you know. So,
well, hopefully you'll hear it again because it's singing right now in Madison for sure, all over the place. Let me just ask you at least about another one here, Evelyn. You say you usually go out in the morning about 6:30 a.m. to take the dog
Yes.
out, and it's usually quieter then, so you hear the birds more clearly, which I love because that's a
Yes.
great time to listen. And then can you tell us about the bird you heard at that point?
well, there's several here, but it starts out with 2 whistles and then it goes choo, 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 choo.
Oh, right, that one, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
And then then the alarm clock bird.
Yeah, that's the one I wanted you to describe. So tell again how you would describe that.
I lived in an apartment building and I thought it was somebody's alarm going off because it went zit, 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 zit. And it was a little teeny sound. So I thought it was a little teeny bird, of course. And then I thought, I wonder why they're not turning off their alarm. And then the alarm went across the field. And I went like, okay, it's got to be a bird. And then it did a couple over there and a couple over there. And I haven't heard it since, but it was interesting to hear this little alarm clock going off.
A flying alarm clock.
Yeah. That's what I would do to an alarm clock that made that kind of noise.
Yeah, I'd toss it out the window, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to play one that I think this reminds me of your description and see if you recognize the sound.
No, it's too long.
That's a nuthatch.
Yeah, that wasn't it, huh?
No, it's a shorter noise, just like a digital alarm.
Digital alarm, so like a single like deet 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 deet.
Yeah, but not that fast.
Not that fast.
Probably about 4 or 5 of those sounds. It was just so I have another bird to find the name of.
Yeah, that one sounds. I mean, it's probably that it doesn't sound like that would be a lot of different birds potentially. So I'm guessing. Why don't you start researching and listening to different birds? You might be able to figure it out. Yeah, because it sounds very distinctive too. I love the description of the alarm clock. The one I just played is the red-breasted nuthatch, and a lot of times people have described that as like a toy truck backing up. That beep, 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 which is another great memory device for that one. All right, then I wasn't sure about the next one, the chew, but I do want you to describe. I love your description of what you heard about the angry kerfuffle. Can you describe what you heard there? Because it's just a great.
We're just walking and I heard these birds singing and talking to each other and I'm going like, this is pleasant. And something came by those birds. I mean, this is about 40 or 50 feet away from me. And something disturbed the birds. There was little baby birds in there and there was a mama and papa bird and they had this little fight. And I think they chased off the intruder and then the father bird, I'm assigning it sex. He came out and he did a big loop around the whole area, like, stay away from my kids, you know. And the mother bird stayed back there and watched her kids. And then everybody was all upset and talking to each other. And then pretty soon they quieted back down to their normal way of talking. It was interesting. I have no idea what kind of bird it was.
Yeah. So you picked out a whole drama, like a little dramatic scene there.
Yeah, because
just based on the sounds. Yeah.
Yeah, when he flew and he was chirping at the other birds. He was angry.
Yeah, you could tell. It was like it was an aggressive sound, it sounded like.
Yeah, and he flew quite a bit. But he did this big he didn't go far away. He just get out of here, you big bad bird. Of course, we have a lot of blue jays around here, so
they can.
And crows, so.
Might have been a yellow-winged blackbird too, because those are very aggressive.
Yeah, they're all, you know, crows and jays in particular will eat anything basically too. So they can be seen as predators by a lot of the small birds.
Yeah, but going to those guys' home, it was just amazing that some bird did that.
Right. All right. So let me do one more of your guys' stuff. And Ava, are you still with us? I know you were sort of dealing with some stuff in between, but I wondered if you had a chance, if you would be able to describe what you heard. Ava, are you here with us? I saw you briefly. Well, let me ask then Mary and Katie talked about, tell us about your visit to Mathiasen State Park in Illinois.
There were there was like huge gorges at Mathiasen, and there's a lot of birds in there. It was a lot of them were hard to hear from the waterfall.
Oh.
A few of them though.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can hear this or not. I'll see if I can play it for you. It is hard to hear the birds over the waterfall, but Katie at the time said she thought they were cliff swallows, and you can see that they have little nests in the crevices, but they mostly circled around the cave openings and the waterfall. So let me see if I can get you to hear this.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see it. I'll try it one more time.
I heard a little bit of that call, yeah. Sounds like a swallow. I'll play this cliff swallow sound, Katie, and see if you think that sounds like the same one, okay? Let's see if they've got other sounds just in case. They do like nesting on cliffs, like their name says. All these recordings are from California for some reason, but let's listen. That was a song they're saying, but here's a call. Let's see if that's how different that is.
That was shorter, wasn't it?
Does that sound like what you were hearing? Or is that, it's hard to tell maybe?
I think it's a shorter call, although I don't.
Shorter? Okay. I mean, there is, I don't know, bank swallows wouldn't be on a cliff necessarily. I mean, just the way you're describing it, it sounds very much like it was a cliff swallow, a group of cliff swallows. And maybe it was just with all the background noise that made it sound, you couldn't hear all the tone. So maybe you're just hearing a short bit of it.
Yeah,
but yeah. Anything else about that? Did you hear or see anything else on the hike that stood out?
What else did we see?
Well, Katie mentioned a lot of birds to me, but I don't really remember which ones she called out. It was an absolutely gorgeous place.
I think there were a few Orioles.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I remember you calling out an Oriole. Yeah.
It sounds beautiful with the gorges, and that can be a really interesting place to listen to birds because of all the.
I think there was a wood thrush somewhere.
Ooh, okay. So with the gorges, that might have echoed, right? The
Yeah,
sound might have.
that was neat.
Oh, I love that. Cool. All right. So let me go on to another recording I made at Turville Park. And this one is a long one. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but there's some stuff in it that is different from the things we were listening to before. And I just love some of the birds that we were hearing, that I was hearing in that while I was recording it. For some reason it won't. So this area was a little closer to Turville Bay or Monona, Lake Monona, and it was also denser foliage. And so there were some different birds there. There were some tall trees, some dense foliage, and we were close to the water. And it was a lot of fun to wander through it. So what I want to go to is number 27. Here we go. And I'm going to skip ahead a bit. About the 1 minute mark here. I'm going to stop it right there. Did you all hear that really high-pitched, kind of whiny thing that went up and then kind of abruptly ended? I'll play it again. Right there. And it just ends. That's the song of a male brown-headed cowbird. They can have a real bubbly, it might have been a call more than a song, but they have a real bubbly sound to them also. They kind of, that might be the song. And then a little further on, so they got a little closer, and a couple of birds started singing. Hopefully they're close enough to hear well. We have two main birds here. One we've heard already.
Yellow warbler.
The yellow warbler, exactly. Sweet, 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 and sweet. That's in the background. Bunch of jays flying over. There's a second, more sweeter sound that you're hearing.
I think it's a grosbeak.
Yeah. So it sounds a bit like a robin singing, but I would describe the tone as a little more a pure note, a little pinched. How would you describe it, Katie?
Yeah, it's clipped, and I think it is a rose-breasted grosbeak.
Yeah, rose-breasted grosbeak. This is the bird that also has the call that I would describe as the tennis shoe on a basketball court, and I think it makes a call once or twice. There was a little call there. It was hard to hear. Couple yellow warblers, sorry, easy to confuse that name, but yellow warblers singing in the same area. I'm going to jump ahead to a non-songbird call. If you recognize this, or coming up in a few seconds. Way in the background, that's hard to hear. There's a red-bellied woodpecker off in the distance there. All right, so we're gonna hear some more of the rose-breasted grosbeak here. I think ends up being two of them. They're both males. They were both singing real close to each other, but one was a second-year male. The other was a full adult male. Cowbird just flew by. There was the tennis shoe sound. There we go. Let's play that tennis shoe sound again. Listen for that hard chick. Sounds like a tennis shoe squeaking. Right there. And there it is singing. It's a lot closer now. Rose breasted grosbeak. That sort of rattly bubble in the background is also the brown-headed cowbird. I don't know if you could hear, just there before I turned it off was the sound of a yellow-rumped warbler song in the background. It's kind of that light warble that we talked about earlier. I think John mentioned it. Right there. Yellow warbler, J. I'm going to skip ahead. I think we have a better recording of a catbird here. See how this sounds. There's the meow. Meow. Two of them. Calling to each other. There were a lot of jays that morning. Just big groups flying around, causing havoc. All right, so let's talk to somebody else here. One question from Kevin: does the auditory size or part of the bird brains vary? So the auditory meaning what they hear? Is that what you mean? Oh, that's an excellent question. I'm not sure I can answer that. I would guess you could probably look that up on Birds of the World. That they have so much information, you might be able to find out more of that, or just maybe Google bird brains auditory lobes or something like that. I would guess it does, because certainly songbirds, when we think of songbirds, we think of these smaller forest upland birds like warblers and sparrows and things like that. They're evolved to have these songs that they use for territorial defense, for attracting mates. So my guess is they have a pretty well-developed auditory section of their brain, whereas a bird like a turkey vulture, which is almost mute, and you can they barely make any sounds. I'm guessing it's not really relevant to their daily life, so they probably don't have a very well developed. But that's an excellent question. It could be that they all have about the same, but some are using theirs more or better. And what I was describing before is they've discovered that bird brains, even though they're smaller for the size of the animal, relative to the size of the animal, they're more connected. There's more neuron connections compared to a mammal brain, which is bigger capacity but doesn't have as many neural for its size. And so they think that's just an adaptation to they need to conserve weight, right? Because they need everything to be as low weight as possible to fly. But they've managed to make these small brains work in ways that ours don't, much more efficiently. So that's one of those really cool things about birds. So many. Looks like Christine had to leave. Oh, and Ava had to leave too. So I don't think, let me see if Ava, what did Ava said? She had a backyard loud chirp at 5:30 a.m. A little further, yeah, right, try to wake us up. A little further at the end of the third chirp. Annoying and constant. Must be a larger bird. I did try the bird song app, but not successfully. So, yeah, that's challenging, obviously. The Song Sleuth app is relatively new, Jim, isn't it? Something we learned about. Oh, is Jim not with us? There he is. I think we only learned about it last year. So it's a relatively new app. Obviously, it's there's some kinks to work out, but I would imagine it's only going to get better with time. So I hope you get a chance to try it. Let's see. What are we looking at? 11:30. Is anyone else before? I'll share some stuff from Pheasant Branch too, but if there's anybody on the call who hasn't had a chance or wasn't able to type in anything to discuss, any questions, any other comments about bird sounds that you want to bring up right now, you can go ahead, just raise your hand or speak up.
Evelyn?
Evelyn?
Yeah, the only other one is that I heard the very first time, my first live non-vocal sound.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious if by the sound it went and then it would be quiet because it was flying overhead. But I definitely heard the feathers and everything. So
yeah, that's cool. There is remember the Wilson Snipe sound from our presentation?
No. Oh, sorry.
That one is not quite what you're describing, but it is non-vocal and a little bit like that.
I mean, my imitation isn't that good, but we do live within 3/4 of a mile of a pond.
Okay. Let me play this and see what you think. It is a really unique sound. Oops, not the Wilson's Warbler. Wilson's, I guess I could just type in Snipe, that'll work. This one is, I've only heard and seen a couple times. I saw and heard them flying. This is a display sound, and it's something they do in the spring. And they'll fly over a marsh or a pond and make this sound. It comes from their outer tail feathers as they're flying.
Yeah, that sounds like a monkey.
Right?
No, it's a definite burr sound.
It's a burr sound. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know the sound of a sorry, my brain is on lockdown here. Mourning dove.
Yes.
As they take off. The sound of their wings.
No, I just know what they sound like in their nest.
All right, I'll play that because that is also kind of a whirring sound.
No.
Not it?
No.
Okay.
What about a crane? Could that be a crane?
A sandhill crane?
Yeah.
I suppose you're talking. It was non-vocal though, right, Evelyn?
Non-vocal. Yeah.
Have you heard a non-vocal? Is that what you're referring to? Somebody, I can't see your screen. Sorry, you're saying there's a non-vocal sound of the crane flying that you've heard?
No, I was just thinking about when they do occasionally that single like note sort of call.
Yeah, I always think of them as having a real real distinct vocal sound.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's all, yeah, I don't see anything that's non-vocal here. It sounds like it might be non-vocal. Yeah, that's cool, Evelyn. I can't, obviously I can't tell you exactly, but it's really, it is cool to be able to hear. I'll be birding, and the way I sort of tune into a bird is often by their non-vocal sound. So if a bird flaps or is moving through the grass or brush, I'll suddenly realize there's a bird around me that I haven't, maybe it's behind me, and that's when I'll turn around and try to find it. So those non-vocal sounds can be really useful. And some are a good way to identify the bird, like the mourning dove and the Wilson snipe, for sure. Anybody else with a question, or somebody who hasn't shared anything in terms of what they noticed over the week? Wanted to? Gail,
I'd like to hear more about BirdNet, the
BirdNet.
alternative to Song Sleuth.
Jim, do you know anything about BirdNet?
I've used it for about a year now because I couldn't get Song Sleuth onto my phone. So yeah, I've had pretty good luck with it. It doesn't tend to do real well in the forest because it needs to have that internet connection.
Oh, it does. Okay.
So if I lose, like in parts of Door County, but you can still save it. You can record the sound and then save it, and then try to run it later. And it uses the pattern too, like the sound wave patterns.
Okay, I'm just looking at their website. It is produced by Cornell again. So we've been really leaning on Cornell a lot with this. All About Birds is Cornell's site. The Birds of the World, which is the subscription site, which is just a massive amount of information and sounds, is Cornell. And then BirdNet is also Cornell. So yeah, I might suggest checking it out, and maybe Jim, if you have time too, if there's a way. Do you have any Android devices, Jim, that you could test it on? Oop, you're muted, Jim.
Yes, I absolutely do. I can absolutely check that out. I've got an Android phone, and I'll be happy to check it out. Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
I have loaded Song Sleuth on the Android as well. So I mean, I mainly use it on iOS. But I did load it on Android just to see if it looked pretty similar to me. So it's interesting you have a different observation of that.
Okay.
So yeah.
Fun is when we're out, she may be recording with Song Sleuth, and I'll be on BirdNet, and then we can take the two, sometimes narrow,
and compare. Yeah, you might get slightly different results, and then you can sort of check them out. That's great. Maybe get them both. Yeah. Get them all. Yeah, good question, Gail. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Well, I'll share my screen again, and we'll play a little bit more of what I recorded. This again is going to be from one of the places I walked. This was on Wednesday morning. So I went to Tuesday morning I went to Olin. Wednesday morning I went to Pheasant Branch out in Middleton. And it's I used the creek corridor section, which is along Pheasant Branch Creek. It's can be very densely wooded, especially along the creek. And then there's some nice hardwood tall trees throughout it. It's a nice variety of habitats and an incredible amount of birds right now, especially. Right now, there's just huge numbers of birds there, lots of warblers, a lot of them are singing. And in fact, this very first recording I made there, initially you'll hear, mostly in the foreground, you'll hear a warbler singing. And what I want you to listen to is sort of the pattern of the song here, what you can describe in this pattern. stop it there just to sort of emphasize that sound. So we've heard it three times. It sang 3 times, but each of the sections of the song each song, part of the song has multiple sections, I would say. Can anyone describe sort of how that song might be broken down in terms of how many sections there were in the song and how the rhythm was, and things that we did during the exercise?
Well, it started out with the 3 slow notes, and then it sounds like the song is broken up into 6 different sections.
Definitely broken up, right? Yeah, and you said, I like what you said. It starts out slow. Does it stay slow, or does it get rapider? Yeah. No, that's exactly how I would describe it. And so I was initially thinking 3 parts, but maybe there's even more that I'm missing. But let's listen to it again and see if you guys all agree. It's almost like 4 there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the keys are the different sections, so 3 to 4 or maybe more sections of the song, and then they start slow, and then the next section is a little faster, and the last section or 2 is even faster yet. And that's a really typical way to describe the song of the northern water thrush, which is what this is. Oh. They are a warbler species, even though their name doesn't sound like it. And they also love running water. They love ponds. They love waters. That makes sense, right? They're a water thrush. We're a pretty good place to see them, especially during migration, and hear them. And there's a lot of them in the area right now. So it's a great bird to listen for. This again. And you guys hear the chickadee in the background?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a robin in the background. Blue jay. Cardinal. That's that one that's repeating. That's the cardinal singing. Cool. Yeah, I love the water thrush. Just to emphasize that this is a lifelong learning, I'm just learning the northern water thrush this year. I had been searching for it. I hadn't seen it much in my where I lived previously out west, and didn't know it very well, and didn't know the song. And this year I've really come to learn it. So it's definitely, I'm a student of all of this just as well. Just want to make sure you knew that. I'm no expert. All right, so we'll move on to another part of the creek here. And there's a really interesting warbler also with it doesn't have a name. The warbler is not in its name. So if you read it, you might not recognize it a warbler, but it is a warbler. And it's also a migrant, and it has a really buzzy sounding sound. Let's see if you hear it. It should be fairly close to the start of this recording. Oh, that's right. I was going to jump ahead, wasn't it? Here's that. Oh, that was it. We'll hear more of it. Kind of rises also. Right there. Right there. Oh, that was a good one. I forgot about that one. Anyone recognize that call?
it's a green. Well, it's the one that I think what is it? Blue-green warbler, the one that sounds like it's saying zee zoo zoo zee.
Oh, the warbler.
Yeah.
So it's very similar tone and timbre, but it's not the. That's the black-throated green warbler.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, black-throated
Yeah.
warbler.
So this is a different one. Let me play a little further back again, and then listen for the warbler, which is bzz, 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 bzz. It rises quickly at the end, and then listen for that sharp clear, that comes in right at the end where I stopped it. So that was the warbler. There was the clear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now you're right. Now
It's
you're
that clear. That was the northern flicker.
Yeah, that's a flicker. And that is also one of those birds that its name doesn't reflect the group of birds it's in. But Katie, you know what group that is, right? What type of bird that is?
They're in the woodpecker family.
Yeah, so the northern flicker is a woodpecker. They're kind of an unusual woodpecker. They don't look quite like them in their plumage, but they also behave a little strangely. They spend a lot of time on the ground eating ants. So yeah, but they do excavate cavities in trees for their nests, and they are a woodpecker. They'll sit on a trunk just the way woodpeckers do, but they're really interesting birds. Now the buzzy warbler is actually a northern parula,
That's what I was gonna say.
which has a real buzzy, quick rising song like that. So this one's a little different than some of the ones you might hear on Cornell's site. Sometimes it's just a rising crescendo and rises quickly and fast at the end. This one's got some rhythm to it that's a little different.
Yeah, I recognize that as a parula.
Yeah, it's a little different, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I was able to locate it and finally confirm, and I've listened to some other versions of the song, and it mimics that too. All right, so let's see. Flicker we've passed. We're gonna go on a little further and see if you recognize this call. It's a few seconds into this, I think. It's the Blue Jays again. Oh, that's really far off. It might be hard to hear. It's that sort of repetitive, nasally in the background. Kind of like Beaker on the Muppet Show. There it is in the background. Right there. It's pretty far off. There's a yellow warbler singing and a robin too. Hearing the beaker sound, but beaker is the beaker sound is the white-breasted nuthatch, which is one we heard in the what do you call it? The presentation. It has a real nasally rank, 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 yank, yank, yank. And sometimes you hear it a little higher pitched like we just did. Here it is. That's sort of what we were hearing in the background there. So then
Sounds like a laugh. Sounds like a laugh.
Sounds like a little laugh, like There's another bird that's maybe a little hard to hear. I'm sorry that some of these are more challenging to hear because it's We're a little further off, but there's a singing bird. It's a little tiny species that's similar to a warbler, but it's not actually a warbler. And let's see if we can make it out a little bit right about here. Sort of in the background there. It's going to be tough. Yeah, I'm not thrilled with that recording. Anyway, there's a ruby-crowned kinglet in there, and I don't think I have a better recording of that, but they have sort of this song that sort of is a little tentative at first, gets a little stronger, and then sort of ends up being kind of a jumble. I kind of have always thought of them as like some old knights on the field getting ready to charge, and they're like, da-da-da-da-da-da, charge, Lord! And they all start yelling. So see if that comes up.
White crown kinglet, gold crown kinglet.
This is the ruby-crowned kinglet.
Ruby crown.
It's sort of that initial sound that strikes me, where they sort of tentatively build into their song. So you can hear it's like a really kind of quiet and high pitched, and then they get a little stronger and faster. That's one of the ways I identify them. It's that sort of that soft, high, tentative singing, and then it gets into a more fast musical twittering and then loud notes. So that's one of those birds that I identify more by their pattern sometimes, like, because the sounds are similar to some warblers, but then you're listening more for those sections, how it starts, how the sections develop throughout the song.
Would there ever be a chance that birding by ear might try doing in person in the fall if COVID's better?
Yeah, well, the first couple of years we did it, we tried to have some follow-up field trips with Madison Audubon that were more casual and just kind of going out. And they were more in summer and late and early fall. Yeah. So I would definitely like to talk to Brenna and Matt about what they would accept, what kind of restrictions they might still want to have. But I think it's a real possibility, and I would like to see it. So we could actually go out into the field again.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, agree.
So just a quick update. BirdNet, I just downloaded it on my Android device and looked at it briefly. It looks pretty accessible for those using TalkBack. It looks pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So thank you for that resource. Really appreciate you guys contributing that. So thank you. And it's definitely something we'll add to our resource list, and we can send out to people if people want to know more about it. So looks really good.
Cool.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, so why don't we stop here so you can go over the Songstoop app.
So you basically just got a record button here.
Record button.
So you've got a record button. So what the process is, you're going to tap that record button. It's going to record, up to just a couple seconds. It's not going to make a very long recording. So it's just going to make a pretty quick recording. Basically, you're going to record, and then you're going to play back that recording. You can kind of hear what you've got, and then there's an actual a button called ID, and you run that ID button, and it's going to come back and give you several potential species that it might be, and it will also give you samples of those species as well. So if you say, for example, you think you heard a robin, you can play samples of robins as well. It'll play those samples. And as we talked about last week, you don't want to use headphones when you do that. You can play back the samples and hear what you think you heard. And so it usually gives 2 or 3 results when you have per recording. So you can kind of say, yeah, it might be this, it might be this. So kind of get some ideas of what it could be. So
Jim, is that only possible with a phone?
you could do it with an iPod Touch, or I believe an iPad as well.
But not my computer.
Not your computer. No, it's a mobile app. It's a
And
mobile
is
app.
that true with the other one, Larkwire? Can you do that on a computer, or is that also just an app?
I believe Larkwire is only an app. I've not seen it on the computer. Yeah, Larkwire.
I put it on my laptop.
You did?
Larkwire?
I did, yes.
Really?
Oh, cool.
Is it like
It's a Windows-based laptop.
Is it a website that you go to?
Yeah, I just Googled Larkwire app, and there was one for your computer.
Okay, I did
And
not
I've
know that
actually
thing.
been really enjoying it, so thank you for telling me about it.
Okay, I did not know that. Thank you for the information. I wasn't aware that it was available for the Windows.
Yeah, I'm tentative to put apps on my phone right now. It's an older phone, and I am trying not to put phone apps on, so I was happy to find that I could do it on my laptop. It's just a Lenovo Windows-based app.
PC.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks, Jim. So
I'll
we're up. You're gonna put the link on?
Yep.
Okay. And Gail also sent a link to today's Madison.com. There's an article about Matt, who we had earlier from Audubon. Know your Madisonian. Madison Audubon director is in the serious joy business of connecting birds to something, I'm guessing. I don't see the full title. Connecting birds to people is probably what it says. But anyway, that might be worth checking out. Hopefully, like I mentioned, we'll have opportunities to get together in person later in the year and learn more in the field, because that's obviously the best place to learn your birds. Jean, do you want to say anything in closing?
Well, just that we're very glad that you all were able to come. And so we thank you for doing that, and to Carrie for your expertise on all of these different birds. And with just descriptions of their sounds to be able to actually figure some of them out. And Jim, thanks for checking out the apps for us.
Absolutely.
So you all have a good weekend. This coming week, I'll be sending out the link for the recorded session for today. You'll also get a course evaluation. So please fill that out. We receive the information just in aggregate form. So don't worry about making any comments that can help us strengthen the class. And hopefully next year we'll be live for doing this. I know that that's a problem if you don't live in the Madison area. That's one of the nice things about Zoom, is that you can participate from any place without having to travel. But it also is nice to be able to get out. We'll let you know if anything gets planned for the fall for an actual outing in the Madison area. We'll use the same list that we had for the class this year. Okay, so thanks, and you guys have a good weekend.
Thank you so much, everybody. It was really fun.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Carrie, Jim, Jean.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks.